So, as we begin to gear up for the release of Grand Theft Auto 6 coming this November, I thought I'd go back and think about the similarities between both Red Dead Redemption 2 and Grand Theft Auto 6. So, after watching all of the trailers so far, reading through the details, and honestly just looking at how Rockstar is presenting this game, I keep coming back to just the same thought, and that is that this game just feels way more like Red Dead Redemption 2 than it does GTA 5. And I don't mean that because there are horses or cowboy stuff or anything like that. I mean the actual design philosophy, the way the world looks, the way the characters seem to interact with it. Because the amount of detail Rockstar appears to be putting into everyday activities all feels very familiar if you spent hundreds of hours wandering around RDR2. So yeah, let's talk about the biggest similarities. Probably the biggest thing RDR2 did differently was making the world feel like an actual place. Not just like a giant playground full of missions, but the way people had routines, they could go into stores, towns felt alive, and sometimes you'd spend 30 or so minutes just doing absolutely nothing important, and somehow you'd still be able to have fun. But looking at GTA 6, it really does feel like Rockstar is chasing that same idea again. The trailers are packed with random people living their lives, crowded streets, beachgoers, people recording videos, and all the while conversations are just happening in the background. The focus doesn't seem to be, look how much chaos you can cause. It's more like, look how believable this world is. And that's very Red Dead Redemption 2. But one thing that made RDR2 special was how interactive everyone felt. You could greet people, antagonize them, start conversations, watch situations unfold naturally. It made the world feel reactive, but now we don't know exactly how deep GTA 6's systems go yet. But based on everything Rockstar has shown, NPCs seem way more detailed than anything we saw in GTA 5. People seem to react to things, to events, they notice things, they appear to have more varied behaviour. And if Rockstar is bringing over even half of what they learned from RDR2, that's going to make a huge difference for the way the game is played. Because believable NPCs are what turn a map into a world, into a living world. But another similarity is the way Rockstar seems to be handling their protagonists. In GTA 5 we had the 3 character system, but it was also very fast paced, so you could jump in from Michael to Franklin to Trevor quite quickly, but the focus was constantly moving. In terms of RDR2, you only had the one, you only could control Arthur, and everything revolved around this one character. His relationships, his growth, his place in the world. He was one man who was trying to make sense of his life through a world that was pushing his ideologies aside for the betterment of the modern era, which was encroaching on the gang. And GTA 6 seems closer to that approach. You've got two individuals who don't appear just to be just some action movie characters, because Rockstar appears to be putting a lot of attention into their relationship. Trailers spend a surprising amount of time showing quiet moments, conversations, partnership, trust. It feels more character driven than any previous GTA I can think of, because the way each of them were designed in terms of the story, you weren't controlling two characters. It was the single guy running around causing mayhem, getting involved with drugs, this, that and the other. But in terms of the character driven aspect, it is also what made RDR2 work so incredibly well. That story just brought you down back to earth because of how grounded it was. But the game itself, but with GTA 6, it's not realistic in a boring way, in a way that makes you feel like you want to turn it off, or you want to go off and do something else. Because there was an issue in RDR2 where people complained about the opening chapter. Chapter 1 was very slow paced. It was making you follow a very linear path. You weren't exactly allowed to go out and explore in the world because of the way the story was designed at that particular point, because you had to follow that strand of events. But this is another thing that I believe Rockstar has taken into account with Grand Theft Auto 6, is that everything feels more heavier. Everything feels a lot more burdensome in a sense that, you know, it feels like you're controlling a real person. You know, in my experience from controlling Arthur, every time he'd shoot a gun, it felt heavy. It felt, you know, like there was something there, and you'd fire a gun and it sounded like an explosive, like boom kind of sound, and it, you know, it had weight to it because everything was designed to make you feel present. Character interactions look more natural, but even simple things like entering locations or carrying items seem more deliberate, because it's going to be still GTA, it's still going to be chaotic, but underneath that chaos there appears to be a level of realism that's very similar to RDR2. Red Dead Redemption 2 was one of those games where exploration felt rewarding even when nothing happened. You'd ride into the middle of nowhere and somehow find a random encounter, a hidden cabin, or a strange event, because the journey itself was often the reward rather than the destination. But looking at Leonida, GTA 6 seems built with that same mindset. There are huge urban areas, there are swamps, backroads, small communities, remote locations, places that look like they exist for discovery rather than for missions. And if Rockstar fills those spaces with the same attention to detail they used in RDR2, exploring could become one of the best parts of the game. In my opinion, I'm looking forward to exploring Mount Caliga National Park more than, say, the Grass Rivers, because I feel like that is an area that we've seen less of. We haven't seen the northern side of the map. We've only really seen Vice City, parts of the Keys, parts of the Grass Rivers, and bits of Ambrosia, but we haven't really tapped into that northern border of the game. So I think out of all of the obvious similarities I've pointed out so far is the sheer level of detail in terms of the environment. We talked briefly about how NPCs react to you, but in terms of the environmental realism, I think GTA 6 is going to take what RDR2 did extremely well and just make it even better. Because animals behaved naturally, weather systems felt dynamic, buildings looked lived in. Every area had personality, and GTA 6 looks like it's taken that idea even further. The density of objects, the lighting, the crowds, the interiors we've seen so far in trailers 1, 2 and all these gameplay screenshots. Everything appears handcrafted, and Rockstar seems obsessed with making every location feel as authentic as possible, and that's exactly the same approach they used with RDR2. So I personally don't think we have anything to worry about here. One of the things that I think people sometimes forget about RDR2 is that the game wasn't always exciting. As I've tapped on previously about Chapter 1, it was a very slow pace, and some people dropped off. They didn't want to continue past that point because some people just want to get straight into the action. But a game like RDR2 and a series like GTA are worlds apart, but also not, you know. A lot of the best moments in RDR2 were actually just through the narrative, through the way you interacted with the camp, with the people you lived with, riding through the wilderness and sometimes coming across a stranger, or just an enemy gang or like a camp. But talking to characters, watching the world, those slower moments gave the action more impact, and GTA 6 appears to understand that too, because the trailers aren't non-stop explosions. They aren't just, you know, showing all this action, but underneath that you've got all of this dark and gritty kind of story that is basically holding all of this together. Because Vice City may look glamorous, but it's actually at its core rotten, and that's something I think they're going to play into with 6. But I think Rockstar do have this tendency to perhaps place more intentional thought into the realism of the game. So they show more everyday life. People hang out, they drive, they visit, they live in the world. But the balance between excitement and normal life feels very inspired by what RDR2 was. But because of the sort of enormity of that world, we had fewer cities. So there's only maybe 1 or 2 that I can recall, and the rest were just small towns dotted around the map. But the rest of that was just wilderness, swathed through like it was like the Wild West, and that's exactly what they were intending to accomplish with that. So all in all, I'd say that GTA 6 doesn't feel like Rockstar returning to what GTA 5 was. It feels like Rockstar's building upon everything they learned from their previous game, Red Dead Redemption 2, because that is where they experimented with deeper immersion, with deeper thought, deeper care, and into their worlds, because that's what they are after. They want to improve upon every title they've produced, they put out, and GTA 6 is no exception for them. More realistic worlds, more reactive environments, and I think this is the next step in that evolution, because instead of choosing between realism and fun, Rockstar seems to be trying to combine both, which could make this the most immersive Grand Theft Auto they have ever made. So yeah, I get it. It's so easy to compare 6 to 5, but it's far deeper than that.